Faith and Family Fellowship Podcast is a Christ-centered podcast. Established in 2019 and hosted weekly by Pastor Chris Busher. Addressing a host of topics such as the Great Commission, Christian discipleship, and often featuring interviews with special guests who are experts in their field. The views and events expressed on this podcast and all related materials belong solely to their author and not necessarily to the author's employer, organization, committee, or other group or individual. While all attempts are made to present accurate information, some information may become outdated over time. Faith and Family Fellowship Podcast makes every attempt to timely update any and all such information. Without further delay, here's another powerful episode of Faith and Family Fellowship Podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of Faith and Family Fellowship. Once again, my name is Dallas here. Today, we have another incredible guest joining us today, Dr. Richard Ruhling. Doctor, such a pleasure to have you here today. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm so happy to be with you. It's a privilege. God bless you and your ministry, and looking forward to this. Thank you.
Yeah, and you as well, Richard. And just for our audience to know, you are calling us from Arizona. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So we just want to get to know you a little bit better, and then we'll dive into your recently released book, MegaQuake 2024.
The idea is that I gave my heart to the Lord when I was in high school. And senior year, I attended a mission emphasis week, actually, and I decided if God wanted me to be a missionary to Africa, in my mind, I saw a grass hut and, working
Wow.
there. But and in college, I was a student missionary to Colombia and Venezuela for a summer. And I confirmed my desire, but I wanted to be a medical missionary, went to medical school, and afterwards had an opportunity to go to Africa. Friends said, you'll do more good in Africa if you take public health also. So I went back, and during that year, the opportunity to Africa didn't work out. The dean liked me, though, and he said if he were younger, he would take internal medicine, cardiology, but I could come back and teach after that training and train other missionaries to go over. And that appealed to me, so I did that at that point. And my credentials in medicine are better than most doctors. I was board certified in internal medicine and had a year of cardiology before teaching. But I was teaching in not the medical school, but in the School of Public Health. And I saw and learned things that, I attended a cardiology meeting where Pritikin gave his report to cardiologists that his diet program got 85% of people off of drugs for blood pressure and similar amount for diabetes. And basically, there's information now on eating that would help most people to live without prescription drugs, which in my opinion are a form of bondage. If you have to see a doctor every month and get blood tests or x-rays and this and that, and then get expensive prescriptions, and those prescriptions actually cause adverse drug reactions, they're risky. I could tell you more, but won't go into it right now. But the medical literature supports medical care as a leading cause of death. It's not healthcare. We call it that. That's pharma wanting to think everybody to think that it's health. It's not. The pharma does not help health. It shortens life. The more pills you take, you're on a slippery slope. And basically, healthy habits can increase your lifespan around 10 or 11 years as an average. But that's so. And I'm committed to serving God. He didn't in the Bible. The word physicians, 5 times used, never has a positive context. It's always negative. Joseph asked the physicians to embalm his father. That suggests that that so many were dying from the physicians that they also did embalming, etc. So anyway, I hope that's 5 enough.
You have a lot to tell. You open up a huge door that I have another friend who I think can really dive into that door that you just opened. And so I'm going to connect you guys. So I think that he focuses on the medical truth of all of this. And so I think that you guys would fit really, really well together. Today, we're going to focus a little bit more on the faith side. And so you did mention missions. And so that's actually why I'm in Brazil. I'm a missionary in Brazil, and I've been here for the last 5 years. And so it's incredible that you had this call, not just to do missions, but medical missions. What do you think was the biggest thing that you learned through this experience of your time in Venezuela and Colombia that you were talking about?
Isaiah 46:10 says God sees the end from the beginning, and how he could be so accurate when we think we're scientific, and medicine is scientific today, is baloney. It's a false science. And the word pharmakia in Revelation 18, verse 23, is a Greek word that deceives all nations, badly translated as sorcery deceives all nations. But the Greek word is pharmakia. Why would they do that? They're deceiving us. Bad translations in some respects. So anyway, but God sees it all, and he's ahead of us, not behind us.
Wow. And let's dive right into your book, MegaQuake 2024, how 3 timelines and 7 events signal apocalyptic times. So what led you to start this book? And let's dive into that a little bit deeper.
Well, what can I say? You know, John the Baptist was a voice crying in the wilderness, prepare the way of the Lord. And I'm seeing truth that needs to be known and understood. And you almost need to get, God's going to hit us with something big in order to get our attention, because the church of Laodicea is lukewarm with materialism. You think you're rich and increased with goods, but not a good situation. Why would God want to rapture that to heaven right now? We're in poor shape, and we need to live well. And God took Israel to a wilderness to show what was in their hearts, and it wasn't a good thing, basically. I'm seeing the earthquake as encoded 4 different ways in the book of Revelation, so it's overlooked. Revelation 8:5, for example, mentions earthquake. In the next verse, 7 angels with 7 trumpets prepare to sound. Well, it's encoded as a roar also in Revelation 10:3. A mighty angel comes down and cries as a lion roars. What's the lion's roar? Christ is the Lion of Judah, and he's going to roar at a certain point, and the heavens and earth will shake. That's Joel 3:16. Okay, we can get to the timing later, etc., but that's an overview of how I see a bigger event. The ancient church of Laodicea that was lukewarm in Asia ended in an earthquake. Okay, so big things are coming to us, and we might as well understand it ahead of time if we can be wise virgins and not just foolish virgins that are going to wait and see. Well, maybe not. We'll wait and see. Foolish virgins had the wait and see around. It takes no faith to wait and see. And without faith, it's impossible to please God. Hebrews 11:6. Okay. So he's wanting a faithful bride who understands Scripture to be the bride of Christ.
Exactly. The faithful bride. If Jesus is coming back, he's the definition of pure, the definition of the purest sacrifice that could be made. And he is coming back for a bride that I believe he wants to be pure as well, that's worthy of Jesus Christ. Exactly. Yeah. You said it. And so let's talk a little bit more about the timing. You said you were going to talk about that. So why 2024?
Let me say this, that the day of the Lord is a phrase used 25 times in the Bible. And I believe that it's an extension of night of the Lord in Egypt. God said, this is night of the Lord in Exodus 12, verse 42. And I believe that day of the Lord is going to be 25 times bigger, because it's not just about Egypt, it's the whole world. Okay. Time of judgment for the last 7 years, basically, which is classic historic Protestant teaching. And I believe that it's not about a rapture snatched to heaven. I believe that we must, through much tribulation, enter the kingdom, as it says in Acts 14, verse 22.
So you're taking the post-tribulation theory, or mid-trib, post-trib.
And the text that I have for that is 1 Corinthians 15, 51, and 52. We shall all be changed in a moment, at the twinkling of an eye, at the last trumpet. Well, there are 7 trumpets, and if it's the last trumpet, the earthquake is going to introduce the end time with 7 trumpets. I think 1 a year on a Feast of Trumpets in the fall. And that we will see the ending that way, and we're going to be here for it. In my opinion, God took Israel to Egypt, and from Egypt to Sinai, and made a covenant with them. And he said, if you keep my covenant, you'll be a kingdom, in Exodus 19, verse 5 and 6. And he also later said, return to me, I'm married to you, in Jeremiah 3:14. Where did they get married? It was a covenant that they made. He regarded the covenant as a marriage relationship, not about a snatch to heaven quickly.
Wow, that's interesting. That's interesting. I've always believed mid-trib, but I've always wanted post-trib or pre-trib. I've always wanted pre-trib. We don't want to experience it. We don't want to go through the desert. Neither did Israel. However, they had to, right?
Well, I want to say this, that the pre-tribs have a partial truth that the post-tribs don't have, because there is an event 7 years early, not just wait 7 years. And are we in the end time now? I think the earthquake kicks off the end time. It's in Isaiah. I was taught the rule of first use in college Bible class, and it's where a word or phrase is first found, it often has a context for end time, because Christ is Alpha, Omega, first and last. He's the Word, he's consistent, etc. And so when you go to where a word like day of the Lord is first found in Isaiah 2:12, that chapter has an insight to what it says, when God will shake terribly the earth. Wow. It's going to be a big deal. And I want to take you to one more scripture to show how we get there to that terrible earthquake. When Christ was asked about the end of the world, he said to understand the book of Daniel. And the book of Daniel has a vision at the time of the end in Daniel 8:17. Verse 20 names Medes and Persians, the horns on the ram. That was a conflict between a ram and a goat, okay? And the goat comes flying from the west and stomps a militant Muslim ram, in my opinion, okay? They take that ram as a symbol of their faith. When Ishmael was saved, they think it's Ishmael that was saved. Bible says it was Isaac that was saved from sacrifice by a ram caught in a bush, okay? The point is, here's a real detail. The bush, George Bush caught the first horn. And
wow.
You come back to Daniel, and there's a goat with a great horn. Well, in the Bible, horns were cut off to make trumpets. The great horn is the great trump, okay?
Wow.
I think
Wow.
he's
Come
not
on.
gone yet. And I could be wrong, but that's something you can wait and see. We'll have to do that. But I believe we're on the cusp of something huge because of Hamas, which, by the way, that word Hamas is pronounced Hamas in Genesis, in Hebrew, okay? In Genesis 6, verse 13, it's translated as violence. The earth was filled with violence before the flood. Hamas, violence, okay? Think of that. And they did what they were violent against peacekeeping civilians at a music festival, and more than 1,000 people died when they initiated the bad stuff, okay? So to justify that, I can't do it at all, okay? And but that's how we get into it. And I believe this is going to escalate until Zechariah 14, the next to the last book of the Bible, Zechariah, Malachi, last chapter says the day of the Lord, that's the end time period, comes, and nations are going to be gathered against Jerusalem to battle. Houses rifled, women ravished, half the city goes into captivity. Wow. And I believe that those Muslims are going to celebrate their mosque and Quran, which happens to say Allah has no son. And I can just believe, this is my speculation now. I'll tell you what I'm speculating. I like to think that it's at that point that Joel 3:16, the Lord will roar from Jerusalem, the heavens and earth will shake, and they will flee from Jerusalem. That's Zechariah 14:5. But the point is, everybody knows John 3:16, but most people don't know Joel 3:16, that the Lord's going to roar, heavens and earth will shake. And I cited Isaiah 2:19 and 21, that it's going to be terribly the earth he will shake. So I think big deal. As the days of Noah, lots of people going to die maybe, and lots of damage, etc. Especially, but the good men of feet unknown would have watched, not suffered his house to be broken. I think watching is protective. Watching in prayer, Christ asked his disciples, watch and pray with me. Can you not watch 1 hour? Okay, etc. So it's an opportunity for us to understand this. And you asked me the timeline.
Yeah. No, actually, okay. I want to take a break here and discuss that. The time, the watchman on the wall. Let's discuss that. So that is an interesting idea, the watchman on the wall. And how can we apply this to our every single day life here?
Okay. Yes and no for both. In a general sense, we tend to explain watchmen as people spiritually aware. But everybody can claim that, oh, I'm aware. And the point is that the word is translated a watch from Gregorio, a Greek word that means be awake. And and that's how Christ used it. He was talking to his disciples, asked them to watch and pray, be awake. He said, couldn't you watch or be awake 1 hour, And so, but the Passover was the only time in the year that this was commanded. And no other time in the Bible is watching at night, being awake, commanded. So, and in Egypt, they were to eat the Passover lamb and leave nothing till morning. They were awake that night as people. They heard the cries of the Egyptians and so on. And so I think that it's, and by the way, Elijah is supposed to come and restore all things in Matthew 17, verse 11. We see him coming in Malachi 4, 4, and 5. Remember the law of Moses with statutes, judgments. Behold, I send you Elijah. Those statutes and judgments support Passover forever as a statute forever. Okay. Well, did God forget that Christ was going to die and those were going to be abolished? I don't think so. Mm-hmm. And I don't think we have to do Jewish ceremonies. We don't have to kill lambs or eat bitter herbs, but the time is significant. And I think we need to watch at that time. That's my opinion.
Wow. And you were also saying, let's go back to this idea of the Muslims. And you were also, I saw something in your book about the Muslims creating an earthquake. Let's discuss that. Triggering an earthquake.
Triggering. Yeah, I'm glad you got that one right. It's when they, I think, when they celebrate their mosque and Quran that says Allah has no son. I think Christ is the Lion of Judah, and he has to respond to that at that point. And I believe he will roar from Jerusalem. Heavens and earth will shake. That's Joel 3:16. Both of those have Day of the Lord context, so that they can be in that period of time. And to me, it would be very appropriate for it to happen at that point, shortly after they conquer Jerusalem.
You're listening to the Faith and Family Fellowship Podcast. We'll be right back after this quick word from our sponsors.
Introducing the enchanting Faith Grow Children series by Jay Koatek. Dive into timeless tales of Bible heroes and heroines, where faith, friendship, and kindness light the way. Join us on an adventure through vibrant landscapes with captivating stories and colorful illustrations. These books inspire the best in young hearts. Start your journey today. Find yours by searching Faith Grow Children series on Amazon today. Discover the transformative journey of Unwavering Hope by Rhonda Mincy. This powerful book illuminates the profound impact on hope in navigating life's biggest challenges. Drawing from personal experiences and everyday heroes, Rhonda offers practical strategies for growth. Embrace hope, cultivate faith, and find resilience. Buy this book now on Amazon and embrace your own journey to unwavering hope. Yeah, you also make a parallel to 9/11 and biblical warning. Let's discuss that as well.
Okay. 9/11 is found in Numbers 9, verse 10 and 11. Okay. It's not about a World Trade Center again. It's really about the timing. But God knows our hearts. Every American knows 9/11. What's that about? Even as a distress call on your phone, 9/11, yeah, etc. So to call for police or fire, whatever. My point is that that in Numbers 9, verse 10 and 11, there was a provision, two provisions really, for Passover a month later. That's how Christ ended his wedding parable of 10 virgins, 5 missed the wedding. Christ was talking to his disciples when he said, you don't understand. It's like a man traveling to a far country. Because in 9/11, if they were on a long journey and they couldn't get back in time for Passover, they were to keep it a second month. Okay. And that's how, when the flood came too. If you look at Genesis 7, verse 4 and 11, the 11th verse says that it was in the second month, the 17th day of the month, that the fountains of the deep broke open and began to rain heavy. See, so as the days of Noah. Well, how much as? I think all of those parables between the middle of there's 2 second comings, one in the middle of Matthew 24. And again, in the middle of chapter 25, and between them is 7 parables, and they all support second Passover, 9/11 timing for the event as the days of Noah. And the next parable is, then shall 2 be in the field. Well, then means same time, okay? And the Goodman is a third parable, and I like the King James on this because Proverbs 7, verse 19 and 20, a harlot is talking to some simple guy. She says, oh, the goodman's gone on a long journey. He's taken a bag of money and he won't be back till the full moon. Yom Casey's full moon. Well, long journey. There's that second Passover again. Okay. For the goodman, he didn't know when to watch. Okay. And then there's the evil servant who begins to smite his fellow servants. I couldn't see any timing in that parable. But the next word is, then shall the kingdom be like 10 virgins. And the 10 virgins end with 5 missing the wedding, and Christ saying it's like a man traveling to a far country. So if you're really looking for it, you find it. All of those support second Passover, and this is as the days of Noah.
Wow. You have so much to offer today for our audience listening. Let's also discuss a little bit about the recent event that happened in our world. COVID. How do you think this plays into all of these things that you're discussing today?
I think it's an early deal to test the water of how it's going to go down. Kind of like maybe, and I'll give you another example. There was a big event years ago with Hurricane Katrina. Okay,
right,
and there was martial law afterwards, and people that had not gotten out or evacuated had to go to a center where they had water and food and a big room with hundreds of people in a huge area sleeping in the same room, Well, there were some people tried to get out, but they were turned back by men with guns. Okay. Not good, in my opinion, but martial law is when Christ said, when you see, I think that he used the term abomination of desolation. It's force. I think when people are forced to do this or that, they're not free to choose freely what they want to do. And I think that a certain church through the Dark Ages burned people at the stake and used the force. Muslims may have gotten it from them. I don't know, but Muhammad married a former nun, and she got her uncle to mentor young Muhammad. And basically, there was a deal with the Arabs. If they would take Jerusalem, they could do it, and then drive out the Jews and the Christians that are there, but turn it over to Rome for control of the holy places. Okay. Well, the Muslims reneged, and then came the Crusades and Holy Wars to try to take it from these infidel Muslims. So Muslims don't have any love for Christians, and they think America is the great Satan. Because of Hollywood, which truly has exported every type of sin to the world. So God is going to punish America as well as Muslims. And in the sequence, he's going to let Muslims drive out unbelieving Jews who are there in Israel today, not because they love God, but because they got free land from the UN, which is a beast power in Revelation 13, basically, the image beast. But so it wasn't time for them to return yet. God said he would punish Israel 7 times over if they walk contrary to him. And in Ezekiel 4, verse 5 and 6, Ezekiel's asked to lie on his side 390 days each day for a year, that Israel was in apostasy. So 7 times 390 is 2,730. Israel was not free to return in 1948. They were happy for land. And we think, oh, God worked a miracle. Well, the devil can work miracles too. And so those Jews that hate Christians in Jerusalem are going to be driven out by Muslims. God's going to drive the Muslims out with an earthquake. But that earthquake is also the knock for the wedding in Luke 12:36. The only other place where Christ knocks.
What a way to describe that. A knock for the wedding. Wow.
Yes. Well, Luke 12:36, I'll quote it nearly for you. And it says that when I return from the wedding and knock, you must open immediately. And blessed is that servant whom his Lord finds watching when he comes. He will gird himself, make him sit down to eat, and serve him. Well, that's what he did at the Last Supper on the eve of Passover. Okay, so it's Passover timing. Those clues, we fly over them, but basically, and watching is part of Passover imagery as well.
Yeah. And the state of the U.S. right now, what do you think is the future as we continue on this progressive pace of leaving God further and further from him and his truth?
Well, I think Rome lost the world's supremacy in the old world. And, Napoleon's general Berthier took the Pope prisoner. He died in exile. And it broke but part of that was the Protestant Reformation. And our pioneers for America were willing to risk their lives in little boats to get away from the old world order and the forced burning at the stakes and things like that for hiding a Bible in your home. And this country was Protestant, okay? But Rome was not satisfied with all of South America, Latin America, and they strategized to immigrate and overwhelm this country. And right now, our southern border is being overwhelmed also with immigrants that have no Protestant recollection or understanding of what is all about. And that's in Daniel 1140, it's a war between the king of the north, king of the south. King of the north used to come through the Holy Land to fight Egypt, the king of the south. And it was an abusive situation when Babylon, Medo Persia, Greece, or Rome came through the Holy Land. They took their women to for sex or their food, etc., to support their armies. Very, very difficult situation for God's people in the Holy Land. Well, in the end time, and it says, verse 40 starts, in the time of the end, the king of the south will push, the king of the north overflows. Well, it's our southern border is overflowing with people that will vote the Pope's agenda. And Washington, D.C. is filled with offices for over 200 years. Georgetown University has graduated Jesuit people who are not elected, but fill those offices so that the CIA has been not only called Central Intelligence Agency, it's been called Catholic in action. Okay, and now I have some very fine Catholic Christian friends. Most Catholics, I think, don't really know the strategy of what goes on in secret societies. But when John F. Kennedy said the idea of secret societies and a free nation is repugnant to him, he was dead a week later. Okay. Basically, the leadership of CIA and Homeland Security, which a nun who had been raped said is Romeland Security, are leaders of secret society. I mean, they're not leaders, but they're members of secret societies, and they know the strategy. And they ultimately, as someone else wrote, Rome Stoops to Conquer, a book on Amazon. They have conquered us, and we're being torn apart with hate groups, this, that, and the other. And the end result really is in Jeremiah 30, verse 11. God says, I will make a full end of all other nations, and America is not accepted. It's included. God is going to deal with his people that I define. And when it says Judah, I believe that's Jews who accept Messiah. And Israel, the 10 tribes, northern, had initially a false center of worship. They didn't go down to Jerusalem as God wanted, but they didn't want to get sympathetic with the split after Rehoboam was going to tax people heavily. So they had their own center of worship in Dan. But today, Protestants, I think, have the Jews intermarried with Christians, came to this country, and to some extent, if we have a new world order, it will be giving false worth to that new world order. False worship. It's going to involve false worship. So we have to say we opt out. We don't want part of the new world order because God's going to have his kingdom. It says in Daniel 2:44, in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom, and it's going to break in pieces and destroy these other kingdoms and kings, basically. Wow. I don't know how that's going to be, but Moses did take down Egypt. Okay. Yeah. So I would say we're in for some interesting stuff if we can be in the wedding and be anointed with power that God wants to give 144,000. That's my perspective of it.
Wow. I did not plan on asking you these other questions that I'm about to ask here today, Richard, but I really believe that you have a lot of things to offer. So I'm going to go ahead and ask. Let's discuss two more things, the mark of the beast, and then we'll go into the next one after that.
Well, bless your heart. You asked for it. Rome, let me say that mark of the beast is at the bottom of chapter 13, and there are 3 beasts in that chapter. The first beast has a mouth like a lion, feet like a bear, looks like a leopard, but has a total of 7 heads and 10 horns from Daniel 7. In Daniel 7, there was a lion with eagle's wings, a bear, a leopard with 4 heads, and a dragon-like beast with horns. Okay, and Rome has survived all of those beasts. It's an amalgamation in Daniel 1. And early pioneers to America all saw Rome as that first beast. And around verse 10, though, as it was going into captivity by Napoleon, America emerges as the second beast, a lamb-like beast with 2 horns, but the horns had no crowns. The horns meant a government without a king, because no crown, and it has a church without a pope, no crown. Protestant America. But it brings fire down from heaven, Hiroshima, Nagasaki, atom bomb, and so on, and it causes the world to make an image to the first beast. the image we've made is the UN. The New World Order is the image of Old World Order because of so many Catholic nations, not just Roman Catholic with a capital C, but little c, universal. Go along to get along. They're happy with homosexuality, this, that, and the other. And they will vote the Pope's agenda. He will be the great moral leader of the New World Order. So when I say that there's false worth and worship, it will include that. And personally, Rome takes homage from Protestants who worship on Sunday, because they made the first Sunday law with Constantine, but it was against the Jews who worship on Sabbath. And I'm saying I'm coming from a Seventh-day Adventist background, but I'm no longer a member of that church. They've made some stupid mistakes too. I'm seeing that in the end time, there's only going to be two movements: one towards God from every church. When Babylon has fallen, come out of her, God will be our leader, and it's not about a denomination per se. And I could go into more on that, but anyway, I'm non-denominational at this point, but I'm taking Bible truth as I see it.
Yeah. And my second conversation that's a hot topic today is AI, and how does this relate to any of this?
I wish I could tell you. I have been fascinated a little bit online to see how quickly AI can give nice answers, emails, and things like that to things, very intricate. Google has a tremendous mind, but it must have access to Bible truth, but I don't know how it's going to come together. But I would tend to think that it may be ultimately a deception, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard people say that this is similar to the Antichrist spirit. It has the Antichrist spirit, something around this. There's a lot that we could go into that, but that is a conversation for another day. I was just curious on your thoughts about that. So Richard, you brought so many things for us to think about today. And this is one of those podcasts where you can listen through once, twice, 3 times and learn something new that you didn't hear the time before. And so I really appreciate your time here today. What is your overall goal of this book, MegaQuake 2024?
Readiness for the wedding. Here's the thing. Christ, let me say this, that in Revelation 12th chapter, there's war in heaven, and Michael and his angels fought against the devil and his angels, and the devil was cast out to this earth. Michael is a word that means who is like God. It was an angel, but I believe Christ became an angel who is like God. He was God. He was called into the inner discussions. He was the Son of God before he ever came to this earth. But the devil got jealous. Just like you saw 2 angels over the ark, archangels, the covering cherub. I think they represent one for Christ and one for Lucifer. But Lucifer got jealous over Christ and said, we can all be like God. We can do our own thing, and we're holy beings, and so on. So it is a bad deal for Lucifer to get. I mean, God could have destroyed Lucifer. Some people wonder, why didn't God kill the devil? Well, think about it. I want to give you a personal experience I had. When I was in training, one morning I remarked to my wife, saw her on standing on cold floor with bare feet. I said, honey, you should have some slippers on your feet. A minute later, our 5-year-old boy comes running with slippers. Now, I could have told him, get mother's slippers or I'm going to beat you with a stick, but that would give me no joy. But to see him coming voluntarily, like he was wanting to help mother, at an early age, just did my heart good. And I think God is like that. He doesn't want to beat us into submission. He's not trying to make us like the Catholic Church, be good, this, that, and the other, burning at the stake. And by the way, they boast that Rome does not change. That right now they're modifying. They go along to get along, but the time is coming when the evil servant is going to smite his fellow servants, and it's not going to be good in this country. And I see that God has a plan. And it involves, like Egypt, as the days of, let me say this, that Ecclesiastes 3:15 in the New English Bible, I like the translation there, says, what is has been already, what is to come has been already. God summons each event back in its turn. And the multiple places in Jeremiah 30, verse 3, I'll quote it for you. Lo, the days come, saith the Lord, that I'll bring again the captivity of my people, Israel and Judah, and I define them as Jews who accept Messiah and Christians who accept the biblical laws. They are fully compatible, and they will make one kingdom in Ezekiel 37, where dry bones come together and get breath and life, and two sticks become one stick and one kingdom in verse 22. Okay. Yes. And I believe that we can be part of God's kingdom, like Israel coming out of Egypt to Sinai and making a covenant. We need to make a covenant. The covenant is what the marriage parables are about. The wedding, see, God got an ignorant bride at Sinai. They worshiped a calf 40 days later. Mm-hmm. Must not happen to Christ. All right. He's already paid a huge price. He wants a smart, wise bride that's scripturally oriented. And so the idea is in Bible times, they had covenants that were, when Abraham made a covenant with Abimelech, he gave him 7 ewe lambs. God gave Abraham, promised him 7 times, I'm going to give you this land. When God made a covenant with Israel, he gave him 7 annual holy convocations, and they were designed to teach the people that at the time appointed, one would come to whom that ceremony pointed. Judgment begins at Passover, in a sense, but weddings also come at Passover. Okay, the wedding parable of Luke 12 has triple Passover imagery. In verse 35, they were supposed to have their loins girded, but that's at Passover in Egypt. When they came out, they had their loins girded. Okay, and they were to be watching. The only night in the year to watch was Passover. And then when he says, he will gird himself, make us sit down to eat and service, that was the eve of Passover. So I'm seeing, if we're watching at those times, he will come to us, and we can, I don't know if we'll literally have an angel talk to us and explain or what, but I think if we go through the motions, he will join us at that time. I want to believe that because it says he's going to give this is Revelation 11:3. God says, I will give power to my 2 witnesses for 1,260 days. They have the power to shut the heavens and turn water to blood. That's Moses and Elijah power. But when they finish their testimony, the beast ascends to make war and to overcome them. And that beast also in Revelation that we already explained who that beast is, it gets power for 42 months, which is also 3.5 years. So equal time for both sides, and then it's over. And I just see us on the cusp of this. If I fully expect this war with Hamas and the Hezbollah to escalate till springtime, when I believe and expect fully Jerusalem to be taken by all those Muslim nations. The President Erdogan of Turkey has appealed for that 57 Muslim nations would siege Israel. We can take it. Jerusalem was our city in the Ottoman Empire 100 years ago, and it's ours today. We're going to go. Wow. So it's just a matter of time. But look out. But then after they take it, the goat is going to clobber that ram, stomp it, and break the second horn, which is Iran at that point. Iran is Persia in Daniel 8:20. The horn represents Persia, Medes and Persians.
And so all the things that you said today, Richard, what can we do today as listeners? What can we do to prepare for the bride's return, the bridegroom's return? Well,
the focus of Matthew 24:15 was when you see this power spoken of by Daniel to flee to the mountains, those in Judea. Well, if you have a Jewish faith and you know that the Sabbath is not going to be happy, get in the country, because cities are going to have martial law, end of freedom. And if you are taken to a FEMA camp somewhere, you will probably never return if you're not favorable to the New World Order. Okay. And I'm not basically, and I'm living in a rural setup. I don't even have mail delivered to my door, etc. But I just say, get in the country, get prepared, because it is coming, I believe. And if you wait till spring, it is too late. When things happen, things are going to come very suddenly at that point, and not a lot of time. So, and you are blessed to be in a mission field where you can do pretty much what you want. I'd say keep your light shining, and study and get ready. Abraham Lincoln said that I will study and get ready, and someday my chance will come. I've done that for more than a couple decades.
And it shows today. It shows today by all the facts that you gave us today, all the parallels, everything that you're discussing. We can tell that you've been putting in the time to study this and understand the scripture.
Well, it comes by sharing too. And in Matthew 22 verses, the king makes a wedding for his son, marriage, and sends his servants to bid people to a wedding feast. And so we are his servants. We need to bid to a wedding feast. And there are 7 topics that we need to consider for a prenuptial covenant. In other words, before we get married, here are things that I believe in Christ, and I want to live for them in the end time, just like Shadrach, Meshach, King, you can throw us in, but we're not going to bow down, etc. We need to have that kind of decision and determination, and Christ will live for you or die for you. It's okay. And I believe he will spare us, and that we can go through a time of trouble such as never was in Daniel 12:1. And it's not far away, but we haven't quite entered it. But keep watching. I see lots of things in the news and et cetera that fit with what's coming.
Wow. And one more question: where can our audience find this book?
Amazon.com has. If you take my name, by the way, the wedding parable of Luke 12. It starts in 32. Fear not, little flock. It's your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Sell what you have. Well, we scorned the rich young ruler that ran away. He made a dumb decision, but God is giving us the same opportunity. Sell what you have. Nothing is as important as our relationship with Christ, and the disciples did that when they immediately chose to follow him. We can follow him in the end time, and I just say that Amazon has books. My name is Ruhling, and I wanted to. I forgot the hook. If we are so doing, Peter asked in Luke 12, around verse 39, are you giving this parable to us or to everyone? And Christ replied, blessed is that servant whom he finds so doing. When he comes, he will make him ruler over all that he has. Well, I wanted to understand how to be ruler, and my name is Ruhling. I want to live up to that. And I believe that it's not just about me. It's really about 144,000 who can be his people in the end time. And they will have the privilege of traveling with him wherever he goes in eternity. Eternity is a long time. He is no fool who gives up what he cannot keep to gain what he cannot lose. We can't lose that once we get it. But we can lose our lives now trying to preserve, do our thing, and I don't want to do this or that. God will test us. He tested Israel. He took them to where there were giants. He handled the giants. There are giant problems today in the Middle East, in the land of the covenant, but I believe he intends to take us to the land of the covenant. If you look at Ezekiel, this is easy to remember. 36 chapters, Ezekiel 36, 24 verses, verse 24. I will take you from among the heathen, gather you out of all nations, bring you into your own land, sprinkle clean water on you, give you a new heart, put my spirit within you, cause you to walk in my statutes and judgments, and you'll dwell in the land that I gave your fathers. And it's not about America or Brazil. It's about over there, the land of the covenant that God made with Abraham. And Galatians 3:29 says, if you're Christ, you are Abraham's seed and heirs according to the promise. That's our land over there, in my opinion. Wow. And God will arrange it so we can get there if we want to. But it will be scary, but it'll take faith. But just like it took faith for Israel, and they failed in the wilderness, only Joshua and Caleb were the ones that got into the promised land. But today it's going to be many more. And that's where, like in India where the Dalits are, they're treated like scum. Why not come to where you're equal with everybody, etc. God's law is fair and great.
Thank you, Richard. I really appreciate everything that you shared today. If you can end our time with a prayer for our audience, that would be excellent.
Yes. Heavenly Father, thank you for this opportunity. Please bless each heart and soul. It might seem wild, too difficult, but you test our faith, and you don't. Without faith, it's impossible to please you. We can't just wait and see. That's no faith. So please help them as they study to get ready, and please bless our understanding. Thank you for this time, and bless my brother Dallas and his ministry. Keep us true to you and do exceeding abundantly for Christ's sake. Hallelujah. Amen. The website is Amazon, and my name, Ruhling, Ruhling, for the books, which like MegaQuake 2024, Ruhling. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Richard.
You've just listened to the Faith and Family Fellowship podcast. with your host, Pastor Chris Busher. Faith and Family Fellowship Podcast was recorded live in studio with final editing made before uploading. Subscribe today to Faith and Family Fellowship Podcast on iTunes or Google Play. For more fantastic daily content, visit Pastor Chris Busher online via Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Don't miss the next episode on Faith and Family Fellowship Podcast.